And then now, being thrown into the fire early, I feel like there's benefits of both situations, because you're going to learn from your reps. And you're also going to learn from watching people. So I feel like, just the opportunity just to be out there and just get thrown into the fire, it's a blessing because, they're asking a lot for me and I feel like I can deliver a lot. So why not, fight up to the challenge?
Hey, what's going on? It's Keyshawn. We got another episode of All Facts, No Breaks podcast for you today. But before we get going, I want to remind you to follow All Facts Pod on all social media or wherever you get your podcasts at. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We got a great show today. Colts starting quarterback Anthony Richardson is joining the show in just a bit.
AR-15, are we allowed to say that still?
I probably would refrain in this climate from referring to him as such.
Okay.
I probably would pull back on that because if you don't, somebody else will turn it into something more than what it is. And,
I feel.
We're not promoting this. No, you know how that goes.
Yeah. All right, well, Monday night recap. Before we get into it, there's some big blockbuster trades. We got Devontae to the Jets, Devontae Adams to the Jets, and Amari Cooper to the Bills. My question is, who do you think will make a bigger impact?
I think they both are going to make impacts, but the bigger impact for me feels like it's going to be Amari Cooper. Just for the simple fact that they've struggled in the passing game. They're ranked in the bottom in many passing game statistical categories in the National Football League, whether it's yards per game, whether it's attempts, whether it's averaged. I mean, they're just at the bottom. They didn't think so after they played the Jacksonville Jaguars and Josh Allen beat his chest talking about they didn't need people at the receiver position based on statistics, things of that nature. I think he's rethinking that now.
Yeah, you might need a receiver.
Yeah, he's rethinking that now. And I think Devontae will be just fine with the New York Jets. I thought he should have went to I thought the Bills probably should have pushed a little harder to get him, but Amari Cooper is just as good for the Bills and Josh Allen. So I think they both landed in pretty good spots.
For the game, it was 23-20 Bills. Jets had a bunch of opportunities to win the game. 22 penalties. I think it was the most in any game this season. What did you feel about that game? How did you think it played out?
A lot of sloppy play, a lot of penalties. Aaron Rodgers pointing the finger at Mike Williams about the bad route that he ran, caused the interception late in the game, but Aaron Rodgers threw the fucking football.
Mm-hmm.
So he was the one who threw it. So you made something bad look worse. And now Mike Williams is supposed to, on a 2-vert side, where you got a seam route and an outside guy is supposed to lift the coverage and hold the safety and put the pressure on the safety. Mike Williams could have done that by forcing his way outside instead of going inside and having two guys where the safety could cover. You stretch him by staying wide. He didn't do it, but Aaron Rodgers pulled the trigger. Mm-hmm. And then there was a controversial play in the game where there was a roughing the passer call in the football game that kind of kept the momentum alive, so to speak, for the Jets. In the end, they lost the game.
Guy kept missing field goals. Zerline.
Yeah, missing field goals. Greg the Leg, Zerline. Right
it's
off.
Crazy. Dinks 2 in a row, right?
Two dinks but the win, I guess, was. I mean, I'm not a kicker, so I don't know how the win affects you. But
it has to affect you a lot. But I feel like they should know. Well, I don't know, but shouldn't they know like how to trajectory and
they did. I'm sure he tried to figure and gauge the win. I'm sure they did, but they didn't go in. But it was a sloppy game overall.
Another sloppy game where the Lions Cowboys. Oh, well, wasn't sloppy for the Cowboys.
That wasn't a sloppy game. It was a lopsided game.
Yeah, 47-9. It's the worst loss at home since 1988. My question is, were you surprised by the outcome? Do you think the Lions are that good or the Dallas is that bad?
Surprised by them losing to the Lions because I picked them to lose to the Lions. I was surprised of the lack of play, the things that was left out on the field, that the Lions just dominated the football game. They had 184 yards on the ground. What is in common with that? The Baltimore Ravens, the New Orleans Saints. Those are the teams that just ran the football down their throat. Now, all of a sudden, in comes the Detroit Lions. Now they're going to San Francisco. What is San Francisco going to try to do? Run the football down the throat. Then after that, they got Atlanta what are they going to try to do with Bijan Robinson? Run the football down their throat. So they got to fix the defensive side of the ball before we can start even worrying about what's wrong with their offense. They can't stop anybody in the run game. And clearly, Detroit felt like they were sloppy, or better, slappies, not sloppy, but slappies. They tried trick plays at the end of the game, or late in the game, to Penei Sewell, as well as another offensive lineman to get touches for them, because they just felt like
just disrespectful.
Disrespectful.
Just don't even think they're shit.
No wonder Jerry Jones was mad at those radio talk show hosts in Dallas.
Oh, you saw that?
Yep.
They said they're gonna get some new radio hosts.
He's pulling his power.
Yeah, so, and then Aiden Hutchinson has a broken tibia. Do you think the Lions are still contenders without him?
I do. They just, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator's got to come up with some different ways to create some pressure without Aiden Hutchinson being in the lineup at the defensive end spot. They got to just come up with some pressure, some creative ways to come up pressure to add to the quarterbacks they're going to face. Sam Darnold, Minnesota, Caleb Williams, Chicago, and Jordan Love within their own division in Green Bay. They are all stacked up, toughest division in football. They got to figure out how to get to those quarterbacks. If they can figure that out without Aiden Hutchinson being in the lineup, now I wouldn't count him out. I mean, we got a long season to go. If they make the playoffs, which they probably will, maybe he could come back from that.
And then back to the Cowboys, the media is speculating Belichick could end up in Dallas. Do you believe that?
I mean, Belichick could end up in Dallas. He can end up in New York. He could end up wherever there's an opening at.
So you don't think
one of the hottest names on the market, along with Vrabel and then Pete Carroll. So you still got names that'll be out there once the coaching hiring cycle begins, or the firing cycle begins, because the firing cycle has to start before the hiring cycle, and then you'll start hearing all these names.
Is Pete Carroll not retired?
Pete Carroll not retired. He just got let go. All the coaches that's available got let go.
Right.
And they're all, Mike Vrabel's
not like
the
officially
youngest.
retired.
He's the youngest of those three. I think Pete and Belichick are around the same age, plus or minus. And then you got Vrabel. And then there's going to be a handful of other candidates. Ben Johnson for Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit. Those names will start to surface. People will start to say, okay, we want to take a look at him. I'm sure Robert Saleh's name will resurface out there for a second opportunity. Man, they recycle dudes.
Anyone, huh?
They put them in the microwave and reheat them.
I feel so. To the Patriots, Drake Maye, what'd you think of his play versus the Texans? He had 28 for 33 for 281 total yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions.
He was fine. I mean, he's forced into the lineup, first start. I didn't mind it. I mean, this is what you're going to get with a rookie quarterback. The 2 turnovers, if he can get those off his resume, then I think they'll be fine. It's a learning curve. This is a wasted year for the New England Patriots.
So do you think he should be the starter moving forward?
Absolutely.
And do you think sitting the 5 games was good for him?
I think sitting as long as he could, it was good for him. But yes, you want to have these guys get some reps and understanding. Jacoby Brissett was brought there to basically be a pinata. A pinata is somebody to just be beat up on. And that's what he was there for, as a punching bag, so that now you got Drake Maye who can look at that and say, okay, I won't make that same mistake. I see what happened here, and that's how they learn.
Okay, so moving on to college football, we had Penn State beat USC 33-30. Oh, no, we're not going to move on. I just want to ask, what were your thoughts on the game, and do you think Lincoln Riley is now in the hot seat?
Well, the thoughts of the game was...
Well, you predicted them to lose, right?
And we blew it, and we wind up losing the game. That's what the predictions, that's what happened.
Crazy.
Now, is Lincoln Riley on the hot seat? His seat is going to be hot. They're not going to make the playoffs this year.
Nope.
Okay, so... You give him this year because it's a new conference they're going into. They got to figure out what they got up front. Let's figure out our strength, our defense, a line, our offensive line. If we could figure that out by next year, going into the season, I predict he is going to be on the hot seat going into the season. I mean, think about it. This could be a 5 to 6 loss team this year.
Crazy. Even in the worst USC years.
And I think we got overhyped because of the name LSU. And we beat LSU on a neutral site. So everybody went crazy. I mean, we beat LSU. Woo! We beat Wisconsin, LSU, and like Utah State.
Yeah,
those are like our victories.
Right.
Like, come on, seriously. We lose to Michigan. Then we lose to Penn State. So
they've all been close losses, to be fair.
Yeah, but you still lose. That's not SC.
Right.
We're not supposed to lose. We're not supposed to lose.
So what do you think's going wrong then in those 3 losses that are pretty much a possession?
Let me see. The 3 losses is so Michigan's 1.
Yeah.
Who's the second?
Minnesota.
Like seriously, Minnesota.
Like, come on.
That like seriously.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Michigan, Minnesota, and who?
Penn State.
And Penn State. That's right. Yeah, we lost to PJ Fleck. I was watching him on the sideline at the UCLA game. The guy's wearing like a sweater vest and a tie. Like, come on, man. Like, we really lost to that?
Yeah, exactly.
To Minnesota?
Crazy.
Like, that doesn't even make sense. Okay? Penn State, slow as molasses as a team. The tight end was killing us.
Is Miller Moss to blame for like the interceptions in the late 4 quarters?
I would never blame Miller Moss.
I feel you.
We just lost. I mean, we're not doing something right. I mean, I can't believe that slow team. No, I'm looking at this tight end. Tight end couldn't run from me to the wall right now. Like, it was just crazy.
Maybe it's the Big Ten. Maybe it's the fact that they might be too big for the pack, the pack, and the fact that it's in the middle.
No, we are a smaller team. That's why I said it another year. Before, put it this way. This year, I'm not worried about him being fired.
Okay.
Next year, midway through, if this record's
3-3,
he's gonna get fired.
It's over with.
I mean, yeah, because people like myself, I can't support that.
Right.
It's just the reality of it. I mean,
and we had him on. Like,
I like Lincoln. Lincoln's cool, but
yeah.
in the reality world of coaching, and he knows this, you can't support what's being put out on the field this year again next year.
Mm-hmm.
It just, the noise is going to get louder and louder and louder and louder. And I understand, you never want to see coaches get fired, but this is a program that is trying to get into the playoffs. They have never, since the history of the playoffs, whenever that started, USC has never been in the playoffs.
Yeah, no.
They've never been in the playoffs.
I think Washington is the only team from the Pac-12.
Washington, Oregon, probably.
Oh yeah,
Oregon.
Oregon.
That's it.
Speaking of Oregon, though, they outlasted Ohio State 32-31. I told you, well, in my prediction, I think they're going to win the national championship. I think you laughed at me for that.
Now, I don't think Oregon going to win it. Ohio State on the road, they just didn't play up to the level in which they should have played. And then the last play of the game, the poor kid just didn't know to slide it, get as much you can, slide down, call timeout. He just didn't know.
That would have been a long.
He could have given himself up. You get yourself up right here because you slide timeout. As you're going down, you're calling timeout simultaneously.
Yeah, you had plenty of time to slide.
You got to call timeout simultaneously. But I blame the coaches in that situation because you're supposed to tell the quarterback, hey, we got X amount of seconds left on the clock. Get what you can and slide and call timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Get what you can, slide and call timeout. So I blame the coaches in that situation. I don't blame the quarterback, Will Howard.
And then South Carolina almost ended up beating Alabama. They barely.
Yeah, Alabama and Georgia has both been knocking on the door of losses to teams that you just didn't expect.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say everyone in the NCAA is beatable in college football. Like in the SEC, there used to be like an Alabama, Georgia that you wouldn't imagine beating in the regular season. Now it's like there's one every week where someone's losing or Georgia's getting.
And it's okay to have 1 or 2 losses now.
Yeah, because there's 12.
That stress,
right?
Because it's a tournament of 12 teams, and if you are Georgia, you are Alabama, people want to see them in these playoffs. Imagine that though, like a LSU playing a Boise State in the playoffs and then losing.
Yeah, but do you like think that the people like Alabama and Georgia go into those games like, oh, we can lose one game, it's not that big of a deal?
They don't think that. They want to go undefeated, but they have the cushion now to lose 1 or 2 games.
Right.
Like Ole Miss is not out of it. Like, right? They're just not out of it. Somebody like USC's out of it. Oklahoma's probably out of it. Where if Texas were to lose to Georgia this weekend, they're not going to be out of it.
They'll be fine, yeah.
They'll be fine.
That's cool. Okay, so Colorado fell short to Kansas State. Did you watch that game? How you feel about it?
I watched it from the beginning to the end, and Shedeur and that offense was out there cooking and didn't have Horn, didn't have Hunter, and didn't have another player. It was like 3 receivers that was missing out of their rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And he was out there with a bunch of backups, and still they was cooking. They just, defensively, they couldn't stop the running back, nor could they stop their little quarterback from running around doing some of the things that he was doing.
Avery Johnson.
Yeah. They couldn't stop. So, but overall, though, I walked away from it feeling good. I mean, I really still feel like they can win the conference.
You think so? They still have an opportunity to.
They're only, what are they, 4-2?
Yeah.
So they're 4-2.
2-1 in conference.
2-1 in conference. It would have been big for them to beat them.
Yeah, it would have been.
It would have been big. They would have been in the top 25 going to Arizona. Arizona just got their ass handed to them by BYU. Which
shout out Jake.
Yeah, Jake, shout out. Which means to me that Colorado is going to Arizona this weekend, and Travis Hunter is expected to play. Shiloh is just coming back. So he had some tackling issues, but he was just getting back into the starting lineup. I think that'll be solved. And then if he get those other receivers back, going into Arizona, Arizona's homecoming. So they scheduled Colorado for their homecoming. So that schedule probably was put together so long ago.
Yeah. Ready for
when
that.
they both were in the Pac-10,
right.
And they felt like Colorado was going to be sorry, they scheduled them for their homecoming. So how you think Dion and company feel about that? Right. And it's sold out.
Sold out. You brought up Travis Hunter, the fact that he got injured. Do you think that they're stretching him out a little too much?
No, I don't think so. He got injured. These injuries can happen, and he just took a brutal shot to the shoulder. I mean, it could have happened
to anyone. It's just more
happened to happen to him because
he plays more.
He plays both ways, and he plays a lot. So we put a lot on it. This episode of All Facts No Breaks is presented by Color Guard. As my listeners may know, a few of my family and close friends have undergone battles with various forms of cancer. So increasing awareness around the importance of cancer screenings is very personal to me. And on that note, today I want to tell you about the Color Guard test, which is a great use at-home option to screen for colon cancer. The Color Guard test is one-of-a-kind way to feel more in control of your colon cancer screenings through a prescription-based test with none of the prep that's required in a colonoscopy. It is the only FDA-approved non-invasive screening test that looks for both altered DNA and blood in your stool. What I want my listeners to know is that colon cancer screenings are crucial for early detection because many patients with early-stage colon cancers have no symptoms at all and are diagnosed through a preventative screenings. And for my listeners in their late 40s who think this doesn't apply to them, guess what? The American Cancer Society recommends that if you are at average risk, you begin screening for colon cancers at age 45. We're not talking 50 or 55 here, people. When it comes to staying on top of your health, the time is now. Plus, the Color Guard test doesn't just offer convenience and ease of use, it's also affordable. Most insured patients pay $0 with zero downtime, no special preparation, and use at-home screening tests that deliver right to your door. It's delivered right to your door. There's no reason that we should let our health take a back seat. What are we waiting for? So if you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a Cologuard prescription through a telehealth provider today at Cologuard.com/podcast. The Cologuard test is intended to screen adults 45 and older at average risk for colorectal cancer. Do not use Cologuard test if you have had an anomalous, have inflammatory bowel disease, and certain hereditary syndromes, or a person or family history of colorectal cancer. The Cologuard test is not a replacement for colonoscopy in high-risk patients. Cologuard test performance in adults ages 45 to 49 is estimated based on a large clinical study of patients 50 and older. False positives and false negatives can occur. Cologuard is available by prescription only.
So you talked to Anthony Richardson earlier. Let's take a listen to that.
What's happening, Anthony?
Not much, man. Can't call it.
You can't call it. So tell me, so now all of a sudden you bringing your talents to Dairy Queen. You partnered up with Dairy Queen along with your teammate and Jonathan Taylor. What is it that you over there creating?
We just tried to explore the options today. We played around with some chicken today. I was tossing the chicken to him, my boy was saucing it up for us. We just tried to mix up some flavors today.
Did y'all get anything? See, I didn't even know Dairy Queen sold chicken fingers. I just thought it was all ice cream. Did y'all mess any orders up?
Honestly, we didn't mess any orders up, and I didn't know they had chicken either. But the chicken pretty good, man. So I'm glad I was able to try it.
So what's the best sauce for the chicken?
See, I was having this little debate with JT earlier. He liked the garlic parm, but the honey barbecue is hitting on a different level. So I'm gonna have to go honey barbecue.
Okay. So tell me, so in terms of where you at with your injuries in week 4, obviously, the win over the Steelers, and then all of a sudden you got a little oblique issues going on. How did you feel and how did you notice it and when did you notice it?
During the game, of course I got hit on that one play, and I didn't know much of it. I just thought, my hip was bruised, and I'm like, dang, my hip hurting. I go to the sideline, they checked it for me, and I was like, okay, I done got hit in the hip before. I could go out there and play with that. But I noticed something was different when I tried to take off and run, and I couldn't really explode how I wanted to. And I was like, yeah, this ain't right. So they told me, what was up, and I was like, man. And they said it wasn't nothing too crazy to worry about. It was gonna heal up on its own, and it's been healing up pretty fine. So I can't complain too much.
So should we anticipate seeing you in week 7 against the Miami Dolphins, or should we just sit tight and wait for week 8, 9, 10, and so on?
Man, I say sit tight, but don't rule out this week. If everything goes as planned, according to the plan, then I'm gonna definitely be out there.
So this has been, I'm sure, the start to your NFL career has been a little frustrating due to injuries. You missed 15 games thus far in your first 2 seasons in the National Football League. Or you just feel like it's just bad luck, or is it just something that you gonna eventually get over?
I don't believe in bad luck, sadly. I feel like it's all part of the process. I feel like it's all happening for a reason. It's just a learning curve for me, learning how to take care of myself, learning how to, be a quarterback in this league, knowing how to just be a player in this league. So I'm still learning. I'm still trying to master that so I can be out there on the field with my teammates. But, no bad luck. It's all part of the process.
It seemed like, though, when you are part of the process, it feels though every time you get these little injuries, it's when you running the football. Do you need to learn how not to be so aggressive, even though that's part of your nature, and just learn to be a boring quarterback and slide down, know when the journey's over?
I feel like I need to, have a little bit of, understanding of both, because sometimes, my teammates and my team does need for me to go out there and make some plays, that's why they pick me up. But they also need me to be out there on the field and make the plays. So, I'm still trying to find a healthy balance right now. I'm still looking forward to, going out there and competing every single day. But, my teammates definitely telling me to play smarter so I can be out there with them.
So Joe Flacco came in as a veteran quarterback who won a Super Bowl, took the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs last year. He comes in as your backup. You get injured. What have you learned from this veteran as you sit on the sideline and kind of just watch him operate your offense?
I just learned that football is football. With Joe being able to go out there and play the way he does, it just lets me know that I shouldn't put too much thought into the game. Of course I got to go out there and master defenses and understand what's going on. I got to master my game plan. But at the end of the day, I've been playing football for a pretty long time. So just let the game come to me and just play. And that's what I learned from Joe from watching him going out there and play.
So 4th pick of the draft, 2023. Obviously with C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young going before you at the quarterback spot, and all y'all being rushed into the starting lineup. There was once upon a time where rookie quarterbacks kind of set a couple years to kind of get their feet underneath them to understand what the National Football League is all about. Now we see Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders. We see Caleb Williams. We see Drake Maye, all being kind of pushed into the starting lineup for their teams. How has things changed, and what's that learning curve like going from Florida in college straight to the National Football League and becoming a starter?
I'm gonna touch on, coming from, Florida to the league. My first 2 years, I was able to, sit a little bit and learn from the guys that were before me. Kyle Trask and Emory Jones, they did a great job of just teaching me how to, be a quarterback at a high level at the time. And then now, being thrown into the fire early, I feel like there's benefits of both situations, because you're gonna learn from your reps. You're also gonna learn from watching people. So I feel like just the opportunity just to be out there and just get thrown into the fire, it's a blessing because, they're asking a lot for me and I feel like I can deliver a lot. So why not, fight up to the challenge?
So when you look back in the richness of the Indianapolis Colts quarterback, especially the last two guys that they drafted high, number 1 overall, obviously you, the 4th pick, Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, and you look back at that, have you had an opportunity or chance to talk to either one of those guys about how to handle yourself as an Indianapolis Colts quarterback and some of the things that you could take from if, in fact, you had those conversations?
I haven't got to talk to Andrew much, but I was able to talk to Peyton a little bit, but it's the same conversation always. Like, don't make too much of it. The game is going to be the game. You're not going to have your best game all the time. You're not going to have the worst game all the time. It's all about staying calm, cool, and collected. Trusting the process and just sticking with it. So I definitely appreciate those conversations, and I'm definitely looking forward to performing.
What's the next big step for you in the National Football League in such a short period of time?
No consistency. Whether that's my check downs, whether that's me sliding, whether that's me showing up to meetings on time, whether that's me being in the training room, just being consistent throughout my whole life. That's probably one of the biggest steps I want to take right now because I know consistency is definitely going to help me get to where I want to be. That's one of my focuses right now, being consistent for my teammates.
When you going back to work for Dairy Queen?
I'm trying to get my real job back right now. I'm trying to get back on that field. So I'm gonna tell them they got to put me on hold for now.
Oh, did y'all fry, or did somebody else fry and y'all just tossed it? The chicken.
Somebody else fried it. They didn't want us to put too much flavor into the chicken today. So, somebody else fried it. We just tossed it and sauced it. That's all.
Or either they didn't want y'all to burn them, one of the two, right?
Hey, to each his own, man. To each his own.
Hey, Anthony, thanks for joining us on the pod, man. I really appreciate it, and good luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir, for sure. Appreciate it.
All right.
So now we're going to get to your power rankings. We didn't have them last week, but we're going to talk about them this week. You got 6 for us. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so last week I did not have them because of schedule conflicts with us and what we were doing.
We're good.
But I put it down to 6. Normally I have 7, I 8. I even have 10 at times. But here's the 6. Now, starting at number 6, I got the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers are sitting at 3-3, and many people would say, well, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you have them ahead of other teams that may have a better record? Yeah, I do. I have them ahead of them because I got a chance to see them against Seattle on a Thursday night with their full crew together except Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy played lights out, best player on the field that day. Mm-hmm. So when I look at that and I seen what he was able to do, San Francisco is one of the top 6 teams in the National Football League right now. I still could argue with people that they're probably the best team in the NFC despite losing to a couple teams in the NFC already this year.
Okay.
So sitting at number 5, I got the Houston Texans. At the beginning of the season, I talked about the Houston Texans being right behind the Kansas City Chiefs in, the AFC conference. I still believe that. I still believe it. But what I want to see is I want to see them continue to have success without Nico Collins in the lineup. They were able to do it this past week. I want to see them have it continue to success over the next couple weeks until they get Nico Collins back.
How long is he out? Do you know how long he's out?
I don't know. It's a hammy, so who knows?
Yeah.
It could be week to week.
Week to week.
Sitting at number 4, the Minnesota Vikings. You say, well, Dad, they're undefeated. They're 5-0. How could they be sitting at 4? They should be like 1 or 2. That's what you'll try to tell me. Yes, they are 5-0. But what I tend to do is I punish teams that go on buys. I drop them out of my power ranking just a slot or 2 because they're on a bye, and I'm looking at teams that actually played in the football game. Now, they'll have an opportunity to show me because they play Green Bay's, they play the Chicago Bears coming down the pipe. So they got some scheduling situations that can solve them sitting at 4 later on in the season. Sitting at number 3, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. Dad, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Kansas City, they're 5-0. Yes, I just explained.
They haven't lost, and they were week 1, 2, 3, 4.
Punished, though. They're bye. I punished them. Just like I did the Detroit Lions a week ago when they went on a bye. Minnesota Vikings this week. Kansas City Chiefs this week. They all sitting on bye. So I'm judging based on what I seen this week, not what I seen 3 weeks ago.
Do you think the Chiefs will trade for a receiver like the Buffalo Bills or the Jets?
I don't know. I think they're happy with
After
what they got
seeing-
right now. I
Really?
mean, they still got Worthy. They got a rejuvenated Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, he went off.
MVS is still available to them. They got the tight end in Kelsey. And that's all pretty much. They just dusted off Kareem Hunt.
Yeah,
so I
he
think
also
they're
looked
happy
good.
with their offense.
Okay.
Sitting at number 2 is the Detroit Lions. Rawr!
Lion.
We just saw what the Detroit Lions did to the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world, 47-9,
Sheesh.
184 yards on the ground. Jared Goff over 300 yards passing. I mean, it just was a all-out baller show. I sit in them right now at number 2. Doesn't mean that if they seen Kansas City, that the Kansas City Chiefs would beat them down because they undefeated.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that Detroit will beat Kansas City.
Yeah, it'd be a great game.
Or Houston or none of these other teams. We'll have an opportunity to see them play up against each other if, in fact, they meet. Now sitting at number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. Here they are at 4-2. If you go back, and remember I had them on the top big board when they were 1-2.
Yeah.
My other colleagues, Paul Pierce and Joy Taylor on Speak, they laughed at me for having them in the top 5. I think they were like in the top 5 at this time at 1-2. They were like, "Are you crazy?"
I think you had them in the top 8 when they were 0-2, when they were 8.
Well, they might have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, they're sitting at 4-2, the number 1 team, because they got something that you cannot stop. Is that
Very
running
true.
game.
Yeah.
And I know they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. If they ran that back, I bet you Baltimore beat them a second time around. They were running the football well with Henry early in the game, and they just got away from it with the Kansas City Chiefs. They just decided to
decided to start
abandon that
throwing it.
run
I
and start
remember
throwing it everywhere. And they got away from it, and Kansas City wound up beating them. But when I look at these 6 teams right here, these are the top teams to me with my eyes. And I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they could be number 7 floating around somewhere in there. The Pittsburgh Steelers could be around there somewhere floating in there. But when I look at just 6 teams with my eyes and what I saw on Sunday, and the 2 teams that did not play Sunday, these are the best 6 teams in the National Football League today. Could change next Monday, but today.
I know it's early, but who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
It's early.
Just give me a name.
But it's going to change because it depends on who gets to the Super Bowl. But right now, it looks like Kansas City, Baltimore, Texas out the AFC. It looks like San Francisco, Green Bay, maybe Detroit, Minnesota out of NFC. As time goes, you can find, we got to see.
I know, but you have the Ravens, Lions, Chiefs. They're in the same division. So I'm saying, like, who could you see?
If it's the
Not
NFC,
division, I'm sorry, conference.
If it's the NFC right now, it's going to be out the Lions, to me, and San Francisco.
Mhm.
Those are going to be the 2. AFC is probably going to be Baltimore
See?
and maybe the Chiefs.
Okay.
And maybe the Chiefs. But I don't know if the Chiefs make it because it's hard to repeat. I mean, to go 3 years in a row to the Super Bowl, I mean, you know how hard that is? That's hard as hell.
And then NFC North, it's like the best division. Do you think everyone can get into the playoffs? All 4?
Everyone in the NFC North could get into the playoffs, but I
You
don't
think it
it'll
won't happen?
I think 3
Has
teams.
it ever
come
happened before?
3 teams. I don't know about 4. 3 teams have.
3 is like definitely doable.
3 is doable.
Okay. That's it today.
Yep, that's a wrap for today's show. Thanks again to Anthony Richardson, and remember to follow All Facts Pod on social media and all of our podcast feeds, and subscribe on YouTube. Again, don't forget to call in to that number. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers before the Super Bowl. Thanks a lot. Peace.